The attorney slid the papers across his desk and said, "According to the revised will dated 6 months before your mother's death, you've been removed as beneficiary entirely." I stared at him. My sister Julia sat beside him with a satisfied smile. But I had something in my purse they didn't know existed. "My name's Grace Thompson. I'm 31. I teach art at a public high school, and I love it. The pay is modest, but the work matters to me. My mom passed away 8 months ago. My dad died when I was 19, so it had been just the 3 of us for years. Me, Mom, and my older sister Julia. I was Mom's caretaker. Doctor visits, hospital nights, medications at 3 in the morning, the hard stuff. Julia was too busy. She had her marketing career, her new husband Brett, her downtown condo. Always somewhere else when Mom needed someone. But Mom and I were close. Sunday tea, garden walks, small, meaningful rituals that filled the quiet spaces grief left behind after Dad died. Mom always told me she'd split everything fairly between us. Julia was flashier, more ambitious. She wanted the bigger share, the house, the savings, the jewelry. I expected that. I even understood it. But I never imagined she'd try to erase me completely. I didn't have Julia's designer bags or her downtown condo, but I had Mom's trust. If you've ever been pushed aside by family, subscribe right now and tell me where you're watching from. Because what happened next changed everything. 3 weeks after the funeral, I got a certified letter. It was for the will reading. I showed up at the attorney's office on a gray Tuesday morning, my hands shaking a little. Grief was still raw. Julia was already there. Brett sat beside her, scrolling on his phone, and there was a man I didn't recognize. Late 50s, expensive suit, cold handshake. "I'm James Harrington," he said. "Your mother's attorney." I blinked. "Where's Mr. Davidson? Mom worked with him for 20 years. Julia didn't miss a beat. Mom switched attorneys about 8 months ago. She wanted someone more modern. That felt wrong, but I didn't push. Not yet. Harrington opened a folder and began reading. Everything to Julia. The house, the savings, the investments. My chest tightened. Then he got to my part. Grace Thompson is to receive personal items of sentimental value only, as selected by executor Julia Morrison Reed. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. "This doesn't make sense," I said. "Mom told me 2 months before she died we'd split everything." Julia's voice was sharp. "Maybe you misheard. Mom was on a lot of medication." Brett leaned back in his chair, smug. "It's not personal, Grace. Your mom just recognized who was more financially responsible." I stared at him, then at Julia. Harrington slid a document toward me. "Your signature here acknowledges receipt and acceptance." "I need time to review this," I said. Julia's mask slipped. "There's nothing to review. It's final." Then came the real blow. "I've already listed the house," she said. "You have 30 days to remove any sentimental items you think you deserve." I walked out of that office shaking. I sat in my car for 20 minutes in silence, staring at nothing. And for a moment, I wondered if maybe I really had misunderstood. 2 days later, my Aunt Patricia called. "Are you coming to the memorial dinner tomorrow night?" she asked. I paused. "What dinner?" "Julia organized it. The whole family's comin'. Your mom's friends, too." I hadn't been invited. Aunt Patricia insisted I come anyway. So I did. The restaurant was upscale. White tablecloths, soft lighting, a private room in the back. Julia's face when I walked in said everything. "Oh," she said. "I thought you'd be too busy with school stuff." I sat down next to Aunt Patricia without a word. Halfway through the meal, Julia stood and gave a speech. She talked about being Mom's caretaker, about their final months together, about how much she'd miss those late-night conversations. I'd been the one there for those late nights, not her. I opened my mouth to say something. Julia cut me off. "Don't make this about you." The table went quiet. I didn't say another word the rest of the night. A week later, I went to the house to collect my things. Julia was already there with Brett and 3 hired helpers, clearing everything out. Mom's jewelry box sat open on the dining room table. I saw Grandma's ring, the one Mom had promised me since I was 16. It was in a small velvet bag in Julia's hand. "Mom said I could have Grandma's ring," I said. Julia barely looked at me. "Well, the will says I decide. And I've decided that rings should stay with someone who'll appreciate its value." Brett laughed. "You'd probably lose it in your classroom anyway." The helpers didn't say anything, just watched. It was humiliating. Julia handed me a single cardboard box. "Here," she said, "some old art supplies and books. Very you." Inside were my childhood drawings, Mom's gardening journals, a few worn paperbacks. I felt like a stranger in my own childhood home. But that wasn't even the worst part. A few days later, my cousin mentioned something in passing. "Jules said you were too focused on your own life to help your mom at the end." I froze. She said what? "Yeah, she said you kind of abandoned her." Julia was rewriting history, telling people I hadn't been there. Then I got a call from Mom's bank. The joint account we'd set up for her medical expenses, completely emptied. Julia had added herself as an authorized user a month before Mom died and withdrew everything. I'd contributed $8,000 to that account. For medications, for care. Now the balance was 0. I sat on my apartment floor that night, bills piling up, savings gone, and everything I'd done for Mom erased like it never happened. That's when I remembered something. I pulled out the box Julia had given me and started flipping through Mom's gardening journals. And then it hit me. 2 months before she died, Mom had a good day. One of the last. She'd asked me to witness her signature on some documents. "I need you to keep something safe for me," she'd said. "Don't tell your sister." She'd handed me a sealed manila envelope. I'd tucked it into my home safe and honestly forgot about it in the chaos after she passed. I opened the safe now. My hands were shaking. Inside the envelope, copies of the original will. Dated 3 years ago, witnessed by Mr. Davidson. It clearly stated a 50-50 split. And I was named executor. There was also a handwritten letter. Mom's words. "If anything happens to me suddenly, and Julia tries to change things, you have proof of my real wishes. I don't trust her new husband. I never have." She'd also included a carbon copy of the power of attorney, only I had ever been given that, and her medical records proving she'd been mentally competent. I sat there staring at the papers. Mom knew. She knew Julia might try something. What Julia didn't know was that Mom had trusted me with the truth, and I had the documents to prove it. The next morning, I called Mr. Davidson. He was shocked. "Your mother never switched attorneys," he said. "I have our final signed will here, dated 3 years ago." He'd never even heard of James Harrington. He recommended a colleague, Lisa Chang, an estate dispute specialist. I met Lisa 2 days later. She reviewed everything, the envelope, Davidson's will, the letter. "This is clear will tampering," she said. "Possibly forgery." We built a plan. Quietly gather evidence, verify authenticity, prepare a legal challenge. Meanwhile, Julia got more arrogant. She sold Mom's car, listed the furniture online, posted about her new investment property. She even sent me a text. "Hope you're doing okay. Let me know when you're done grieving so we can finalize everything." I didn't reply. I didn't reveal what I knew. Aunt Patricia called a few days later. She said Mom had mentioned the original 50-50 will to her. She was willing to testify. Then came the document expert's report. The signature on Julia's will was a traced forgery. Wrong pressure points. The ink dated to after Mom's death. Lisa filed the legal challenge. A court hearing was scheduled. When Julia got the notice, she called me, furious. "You're actually doing this? Challenging Mom's wishes?" I kept my voice calm. "I'm honoring them." She threatened to countersue for emotional distress and legal fees. I hung up. The mediation happened in a windowless conference room, me and Lisa on one side, Julia, Brett, and Harrington on the other. A mediator at the head of the table. Julia looked confident. "This is ridiculous," she said. "I have the legal will." Lisa reached into her briefcase and placed the documents on the table. The original will. The carbon. Copies. Mom's letter. Julia's face changed. "Where did you get those?" I met her eyes. "Mom gave them to me, 2 months before she died. She asked me to keep them safe." Harrington picked up the papers, flipping through them. His face went pale. "These could be forgeries?" he tried. Lisa slid the expert report across the table. "Actually, your will is the forgery. The signature was traced. The ink dates to after her death." The room went silent. Julia tried again. "Mom changed her mind. She was allowed to." I pulled out the medical records. Mom was mentally competent until she died, and she never switched attorneys. Lisa added, "Mr. Davidson's affidavit confirms he remained her attorney throughout." The mediator turned to Julia. "Can you explain the discrepancy?" Brett panicked. "This was your idea, Julia. I told you it was too risky." Julia snapped. "Shut up." I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Why?" I said. "You were going to get half anyway. Why erase me completely?" Julia's mask finally came off. "Because you were always her favorite," she said, bitter. "The good daughter. I was tired of being compared to you." "So you decided to steal my inheritance and rewrite history?" "You don't need the money like I do," she shot back. "You're happy with your little teacher life." I leaned forward. "That wasn't your decision to make." Harrington tried to negotiate something. Lisa shut it down immediately. "Original will's terms," she said, "or we pursue fraud charges in court." The mediator looked at Julia. "I strongly suggest you accept." Julia stared at the table. "Fine." I looked at her one last time. "I would have shared Mom's memory with you," I said. "We could have done this together, but you chose to steal instead." She didn't answer. Within 2 weeks, the original will was legally reinstated. I became executor and oversaw the fair distribution just like Mom wanted. I kept the house but rented it to a young family. It felt right, keeping Mom's memory alive there. I used part of my inheritance to create an art scholarship in Mom's name at my school. Julia returned the jewelry, the furniture, the stolen money. We haven't spoken since the settlement. I have no desire to rebuild, but I've grown closer to Aunt Patricia. We have dinner once a month now. I planted a garden at my apartment using Mom's journals as a guide. Tomatoes, basil, lavender. I'd spent so long hurt by what Julia took, but she couldn't take what mattered most. My memories with Mom, the time we had, the trust she placed in me. I heard through family that Julia's marriage is strained. Brett resents the legal fees. I saw her once at the grocery store. She looked away. I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just quiet closure. Last Sunday, I visited Mom's grave with fresh flowers. I knelt down and whispered, "I kept it safe, just like you asked." For once, her silence didn't hurt me. It freed me. If you've ever had to stand up to family, betrayal, hit subscribe, and tell me your story. This could have destroyed me, but having proof Having Mom's trust. That made all the difference. Where are you watching from? Drop it below. I always check. And if you're going through something similar, document everything. Keep records. Trust your gut. Sometimes the people who should protect us are the ones we need protection from. Your story deserves to be heard. Share it with us in the comments.